will focus on design controls. So this is the complete process from early phases, say idea phase or ideation phase, up until post-market surveillance. So we're following a set of development projects from initial ideas up until release of sales release of a product. The essence is with design controls is to track all relevant activities of generation of design inputs, generation of design outputs, determining the traceability through validation, and then going through the later phases of design transfer to post-market surveillance. The functionality in Innovia to support these activities are quite a wide set. The core of the functionality is built around the program management and project management capabilities and functionalities. So this is the ordinary management of projects together with activities or a work breakdown structure, but also to define the deliverables as the project is progressing. And of course, in the context of device development, we're referring to these deliverables as general product development deliverables as well as the DHF. As mentioned, the functionality to support design controls is spread over at least 4 or 5 different modules. To start with, from early on, with ideation or with design inputs, we're tracking the early intent and the early needs as a form of early requirements. As we proceed through the design inputs, we're detailing the general requirements and the general needs and the general instruction of use, and detail these for detailed technical requirements, passing through the different features of a product. Then, as mentioned, the core module is a project management capability, and that's where we will actually start today, because that's where we set up the complete stage gate project, the skeleton or the project setup for any device development project. In this, we define our stages and gates. And the essence here is, of course, to capture the DHF. But more importantly, whenever someone is storing a deliverable as part of the development project, is automatically stored towards the DHF, if we want so. And additionally, whatever we do within Innovia is stored in our audit trail. So everything from our scheduling of the gate review meetings to detailed decisions can be tracked within Innovia, or is tracked within Innovia as management controls. When we are passing through the more mature phases, when we come to our candidate DMR and our candidate technical file, we're starting to work with the functionality for the technical file or submissions. And that's the third module relevant for design controls. In that, we manage our regulatory strategy. We divide the regulatory work, perhaps between a centralized organization and local decentralized submissions, which are run locally in one specific country. And then we file this for regulatory release and complete the registration. And all this, connecting the technical file or the DHF and the DMR, the alternative or the preliminary DMR, with the technical file and submission, that's where the regulatory release is handled. The regulatory release is true for the submission, say the 510K or the PMA, whatever it might be. But it's also the functionality we use for our early dialogue with the regulatory body or any dialogue with them outside of our core submission. And of course, it's also where we manage our DI, device identifier, and where we control the generation of DIs, but also the mapping of the DI towards the product. The other modules we might be touching upon in later stages is, of course, for the validation, where we track, and that's the requirements traceability module, and in the generation and submission of the DMR, which is part of the standard functionality for EBOM management, DMR management, and their relevant change processes. So let's start with in the application directly today. We are in 14x of Enovia, which is now today referred to the old release, because we have the 15x released the other week. Within this, we will work with some different modules today. We will primarily work in the app called Program and DHF. We might touch upon the requirements. We might touch upon the device identification and market registration. And if we are allocating resources, we're typically also reviewing resource needs with the COPA and audit. As mentioned, when we're touching upon the EBOM and the DMR, we're using the BOM and DMR functionality. So this is our tablet of functionality we're working with. I start off as Chris, and I'm a program manager. So in my standard login view, I have my different projects where I'm active, and we'll dive into our example, which you might be familiar with since we've used this in our webinar series. It's the automated external defibrillator, and it's a new development. So I open up the project, and here you can see our stage gate project. We see the different stages: ideation and requirements, product concept, project planning, design development, design verification and validation, the design transfer, and then the actual launch, and after this the post-launch assessment or the PMS activities. As I can see here, I have an existing project, and we've already initiated most of the phases here. So those phases which are green have already been passed, and between the different phases we can see that we had several different gate reviews. So if we look into the different phases, under each and every phase we have a detailed description of the phase in itself. If a review is required, whatever DHF element is part of a deliverable, and of course for the activities I have here, or tasks as we refer to, we can either have DHF elements or just having them as deliverables, standard deliverables within Innovia. Dependencies and the task behavior is quite similar to MS Project. Under these icons here, we have a direct link to the actual deliverable. So in this case, the customer focus groups and the documentation on that is a controlled document. I see that from the name convention on this file, and I can see when it was filed. I see here that it has green status, yes, it's completed, and it's 100%. And we can see which date it was completed. So as the project progresses, all the deliverables are stored continuously through our activities in the project. For those familiar with Innovia and the program management capabilities of Innovia, we have assignments. This is assignments of different tasks. These are role-based. So if I define a specific role for a task, I will see those users which have that role as available, assuming that those are available in my resource pool. I have tools for collaboration, which are discussion threads and the tracking of decisions and meetings. So this is where I track any decision meeting, and I send out the Outlook invites for my meetings, as well as tracking any ad hoc decision which is done all through this phase. And of course, when I track them here, they are automatically tracked in the audit trail. The deliverables are defined as ordinary deliverables in Innovia. The related item is if I connect any specification to this particular phase, any subsystem. Okay. So within each phase I have the deliverables. On a more general level, I can see my project budgets, I can see my project benefits and my project members and the details on the actual project. I can see if it was generated from a particular template, who has visibility on this, which business unit is involved, what are the scheduling activities related to this project. And start dates, actual and expected start and finish dates. When I've finished initial phases, I have a gate review. And the idea with a gate review is that you do this interactively in the system. So in a similar fashion as with the ad hoc meeting, I can schedule my meetings directly from this gate review, and these are generated in Outlook and stored with ordinary Outlook capabilities. Any decision made in the gate review is logged with this icon. I can also have checklists for the gate review, so it really tracks all the predefined gate reviews. And in this way, the project progresses. If we look into the conceptual design, or the second phase, below the phase definition, we see the work breakdown structure. If I drill down, for example, into the product requirements here, I can see that there is a deliverable already checked in on this one, and It's somewhat hidden here, but so in this case, it's a Word document. So this is the template for a requirement spec checked in. So that's behind each and every deliverable, there are the specific deliverables checked in. I can also here see that it's typed as design input, and this means that it's automatically stored towards my technical file as under the tag design input. So in this way, I store continuously my deliverables, and we can see that that's how it's been progressing here. You can see the different dates. And if we look at a more mature phase, let's see, on design and development. In this case, I have a deliverable which is the bill of material and hardware design, and I can also see that I have the initial DMR index. So also here, if I navigate to this deliverable, we see that below this level, we have a product definition. We have a set of documents as well. We navigate to the top level of the bill of material. Let's expand this one. And we see here that we have the top level, we have the details on the assembly, we have a drawing checked in, it's a drawing assembly, and if we switch to the bill of material, we can see the full structure build up here of the different subsystems of the AED. And this way it continues. So we have all access to all the details of the design outputs. We have the specification. We have the bill of material. We can generate the DMR from the bill of material, and we have the specific details required for that. So it really gives an online view on the both the DHF and the DMR as it starts to grow out of the design controls. Okay. So when we're logged in, because now we've been looking at a mature project, which is in post-launch phase. It's therefore a good example to, and I choose that example because I wanted to show the connection to the submission. So obviously with design controls, we use that to build up the DHF. And when generated as part of the launch or post-launch assessment, we're starting to complete the regulatory submission. The submissions are actually projects in themselves. And the if we drill down into this submission folder, we will clearly see that the submission is a project. It has, in similarity with the design controls set up, it has their stages and gates, and the same level of detail as with design controls. There are some differences though. So it has more details on the actual submission, the submission volumes we're using. Of course it is submission specific. It has the details on the submission type. It has the details, all the relevant details, in this case on the 510K. So it really allows us to drill down and follow and track the submission, see how it's connected to the design controls. And also from here, if I want to, I can navigate back to the original product, its model, its prototype. So I have all information connected. And what we've done now is we went from the design controls to the DHF to the submission and back to the product. Okay, I will close this one down. We were at the submission. If we take a look at the technical file on the submission here under, you can see here that it's a volume-based definition. So under the design controls, we define the different deliverables as typed as design input, design output for our different controls. Here, when we enter into the submission, we change the view, and here we define it from a regulatory purpose. But of course, the underlying deliverables are exactly the same. It's the same information we're working with. Okay, but I would like to go back to the original project. So we looked at the design controls, the different phases. We looked at the submission. We saw the connection in between them. We had a quick look at the design outputs and the DMR. From here, I'd like to explain some of the logic of setting up the projects. So if I want to launch a new project, I go onto the create project, and I have access to this functionality because I'm assigned the role of a project manager. Within my Innovia License to Cure implementation, I have different templates for different kind of projects. So if it's a large implementation project, I typically set it up with a Category 1 or Category A project type, which is a completely new development project. And that will give me a very rich set of tasks with me when I define my project. But I could also have smaller projects which will give me a lighter set, smaller set, say just a change project. I want to exchange the supplier. Still, I will need some predefined tasks, and still I want to use some predefined tasks. For example, if it's a supplier which is providing a component on my critical component list, I typically want to have some predefined tasks for notifications sent to my notified body. And if that's the case, I will want to have those tasks predefined. So that's typically the kind of categories of projects I want to run with. One thing is the definition or size of a project. Another one is the regulatory strategy. It could be that I have different projects for different markets, so those have predefined sequences of activities for regulatory submission for that local market. I can, of course, also create my project based on some other already run project. And I can take the templates from that as a master. But in this case, I'll create a new project. Okay, I might connect it to an existing program. So let's see what I have. So I have the innovative defibrillators. I'll do my categorization here. So this might be a way to define my medical device class if I don't have that as a separate setting. So if I know it's a my category for a key market, I will typically set that as part of my templates, and since that will influence so much of the contents of the design controls and stage gate project. I typically set my business unit. And okay, so I've done my settings. I select on done. So what it does now is it reviews the values I've set and selected, and it reads a template to define all the tasks which I need in my projects. Those tasks might be a WBS, a work breakdown structure, where each task has a start date, an end date, a duration. But it's not necessarily so. This could also be just activities without dates. So here I can see that okay, there was an empty project template, so I doubt the validity of this example. Typically what I would get is my predefined stage gate. So what I'll do is I'll use the cookbook example. And this is what the project might look like if I create it from a template. In this case, it indicates status red, which means that I'm not in sync with the project schedule. But it will generate a template for my project, and I'll then decide to start my project, and all my phases and gates will be activated. Everything about design controls is not about stages and gates only. So one important part of our license to cure implementations is that we have an excellent tool to read out requirements from the requirement spec and define separate requirements or needs based on these. These might be our regulatory claims, but they might also be our basic device needs and basic requirements. And of course, they will also be our detailed technical requirements. In order to have an idea of what these parts might look like, let's log out and log in as a validation engineer. Actually, I'll log in as a system architect, which is fine. Both the architect as the validation engineer has full access to both requirements and the relevant tests. So what we have here is the functional or the product requirement specification. And if I expand this, I'll run the traceability report, and I want to see the requirements to test specification. So what I have is the full traceability report from the requirements taken from the, or read and imported from the requirement spec in Word format, fully traceable to the test cases run. And these might be type tests, it might be detailed test cases for any functional validation. And we can see the clear status of each and every test. And also this is, of course, key functionality when we are progressing with our design controls to make sure that our traceability test to initial requirements and design inputs are intact. And this is something which we will have with us for our gate reviews, immediately accessible to review status of our project and to review how complete we are. These capabilities are the stage gate capability as well as this traceable requirements capability, and then also our possibility to review the DMR directly from the tool are essential to front load the DHF. So all through, as I progress through my stages and gates, I will see these are my deliverables, they are completed. Independent if it's a control document, specification, a bill of material, any drawings, any record, and of course any DMR index, any traceability matrix. So it really provides with powerful tools to understand, are we complete with our design controls? Okay, so with that, I've given you a brief of the design controls capabilities of license to cure. We're having earlier finish today, so I'll open up for questions. So there are no current questions in the panel. So if you would like to submit any questions, just email those. So my email address is psa@technia.com. And you have my details on the invite to the webinar. So with that, we'll have an early end to this session. But before ending, I will also like to remind you of the registration to the upcoming Technia LiveScience Customer Advisory Board, which is held on April 15th and 16th in Copenhagen. It's William Demont Holding who is host for this event this time, and so it's held at their facilities at Kongebakken. This time it's a 2-day event. The first day is actually held at Medicon Valley Alliance at Ørestad in Copenhagen, close to the airport. That's half a day, so it's lunch and onwards, where you'll be introduced to License Secure, the basic concepts, typically what we've covered in this webinar series, which is everything from initial ideation and conceptual design phases to a more comprehensive session on this design controls. We cover selected topics on CAD integration, typically for CATIA and SolidWorks. We will cover all the stages covered today, so it's traceable requirements, it's the dossier and submission, claims management, and global market access. We will, at the later part of the session, cover implementation topics for PLM for device, specific for device development. In the evening, we invite to a dinner, which is held downtown in Copenhagen. This is open for both anyone attending earlier in the day, as well as mature users of Innovia, which typically will attend perhaps the first day or half a day, but also on the 16th, which is the main customer advisory board. We start that day with topics such as a deeper review of some current topics. One is UDI and the device identifier. One is the design history records and how these are treated and managed within the Innovia suite and also other relevant modules. After lunch, we will have the ordinary customer advisory sessions. So this is for existing Innovia users only, debating current topics, challenges, and also providing input for the future of PLM with Technia and Innovia. And with that, we will also have an update on the 15X release of Innovia license to Cure suite and 15X release in general, including the latest version of TVCs. So it will be a full agenda, starting at lunchtime on the 15th of April, running through a full day on the 16th, and I believe we're ending on the 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So with that, we welcome you to Copenhagen. For registration, you navigate to the Technia website under the Events tab, and if you scroll down, you will have the event, Building Compliance for PLM, Current Challenges and Trends in Device Development. And mentioned, the event will be held at Medicon Valley Alliance in Örestad, next to the airport, and the second day at William Demant Holding on site. So they are our host for that day, or co-host. Thank you very much. With that, I close today's webinar, and if there are any additional comments, any questions, feel free to send them via email or give me a call. Thank you very much for today.